Hey guys, Michael here from Dapper Raptor, and in this video I'm going to go over the process of getting QuestMap Pro up and running with Survival Game Kit version 2. That will include integrating QuestMap Pro into Survival Game Kit's save system, which is a bit of work. So this tutorial might end up being a bit long and a little bit all over the place. Unlike usual, I can't just sort of wing it on this one. I've got to go from my own reference stuff here. So yeah, apologize if it seems a little bit longer or more long-winded than usual. So the first thing we need to do is basically just go through the standard integration. So we're going to go through the minimum part of that, which involves jumping into our controller first. So in this case, we're using BP SGK controller. So we're going to open that up. And we want to start by adding the QuestMap Pro components. So we're going to add the manager component. We're going to add the map component and the compass component. Once we have done that, we want to go through and we want to add the interface for the controller. If it appears like I'm sort of moving through this stage a little quickly, there is the full integration is covered on the documentation. I'd advise you to go through that and then come back and pick up at the part where we start to make adjustments for Survival Game Kit, because the first section of this is just going through the standard integration. So we've added the controller interface. We want to go down to interface functions here and get QuestMap Manager and just plug that in there. After that, we need to go into our character. So in this case, we're using BPSGK master character, and we want to add an interface to this one as well. So class settings, go to add, and we want to search for player actor and add that one. Under interfaces, we want to find get camera, and we just want to give it a reference to the player camera, like that. Once that is done, we can close this up. I'm going to just copy paste the input from the demo controller here. As per usual, I would recommend you actually go through and do the proper system using enhanced input, but we are just going to go through it this way to make it a little bit quicker. And we're going to chuck it in the input graph here. But we're going to use some different keys because SGK has a bunch of keys already used. So I'm just going to use home for the map visibility, insert for the compass visibility, and delete. Yeah, delete will do. Delete for the mini map, and we just need to go through and update these references to make sure they're the ones that are in our controller here. So again, I would recommend going through the proper process of adding proper input mappings, or ideally using enhanced input, but this is just for the getting this up and running. Once that is done, we can actually move on to capturing our map. Now I've just got a level here that is the Survival Game Kit example level that you would be used to seeing if you've used their system, but made a bit bigger with a few other things just to make it a little bit easier to tell where we are. So let's go to top-down view. Let's go to lit, zoom all the way out and make the graph a bit bigger, and let's drop in some target points. One up here. And then let's hold Alt and copy paste that one, and that one goes there. We can go back to perspective mode, and let's drop in the map helper. It hasn't shown up in there for some reason. So we're going to go blueprints, actors, helper actors, and map helper, drag this into the scene, and we just want to tell it those target points we just used. So target point 1 and target point 2. We then hit update helper actor, and we want to maybe just set this to about 20,000 so it's up above. And that is good. I'll make it a little bit higher quality, hit capture map image, and we should now have our map capture in here. Yep, we do. So that is done. So that is essentially the end. Or we need to set the need to go into our controller and set the map image. So let's just click on map here and then drag that there. So that is essentially the end of the normal integration. From here, we should see it all working. Yep, so we've got our map up and running. We can zoom in, we can put waypoints down, all that sort of stuff, as you would expect. And you can go through the rest of the integration and add in like landmarks and all that sort of thing. So from here is the parts that are specific to Survival Game Kit. And as I said, it's going to be a little bit all over the place. So let's start with the controller. We need to make a couple of changes in the controller. I'm just going to hit save, so it saves our progress so far. Let's go into the Survival Game Kit controller. So BP under SGK controller. And in here, we want to go to the input graph, which is where we are, and we want to find this function here, event on possessed. In here, we need to go to this section here, and I'm just going to open up my documentation so I have a clear reference here. So we want to get the manager component, so hold control and drag that in, and then drag off of here, we want to look for update possession. So the main part of what we're doing right now is setting it up so that when the character dies and respawns or loads a new save game, we're not going to run into errors. So once that is hooked up in between these two nodes, you want to drag off possessed actor and type in self to get a reference to self. Just like that. And then we also want to just click on the manager component and scroll down to where we have saving, and just want to turn off load save data on startup. And for now we are done in the controller. The next step, we want to jump into the player inventory component. So that is under Survival Game Kit components and then BP player inventory. In here, we want to find the death respawn graph. Event, which is this one here. Oh, it is a graph. And we want to find one called server respawns player. I think it is... Here it is, this one here. Is that the one? No, sorry, that's client. We want this one here. So it's right at the top. Server respawns player. And what we want to do is in here find where the death controller is possessed. Possesses the character. So this is what we're looking for right here. So it's about 3/4 along the way this event. And just what we want to do is get a copy of this death controller, drag off and say get quest map manager. And then off of the manager, we want to type in reinitialize QMP. So we're going to hook that up just after possess here. It's very important it goes after possess because otherwise you're going to run into some issues with that. We can now save and close the player inventory. We will return to this later, but for now, let's just save it and close it. And we want to open up QuestMap Pro's manager component. So go to QuestMap, Blueprints, Components, and BP underscore QuestMap Pro underscore manager. In here, we want to edit two functions here. So the first one is called reset state. So we want to open up reset state. It's a big long function here. And right at the beginning, we just want to do a little check here. We want to use this example UI here and do an is valid on it. And we're just going to hook that up to the true of this branch. And if it is valid, we're going to continue as per normal. But if it's not, we just want to hook it up here and bypass this node here. Essentially what this is doing is if the example UI is not valid, it will not try and remove it. So you don't get an access none error. Then we want to go to update possession, which I actually have open here. But if you search for update and just find update possession here, you'll see this one here. And in here, what we want to do is find the bit where it says reattach helper actor. Reattach helper. So it's right here, this one. Pretty close to the beginning. And we want to copy and paste a reference to the character helper here and use an is valid on this. And we're doing a bit of similar logic here. We're going to hook that up to the true from the branch. And if it is valid, we're going to continue as normal. If it is not, we want to call the function called spawn character helper. And then continue as normal, bypassing this. Okay, so at that point, we should now have quest map up and working as we expect. Now, we haven't touched the save data, but if I go over here and I die in this damage zone, for instance, we should see that quest map will reinitialize as we expect. So if we hit random respawn, you can see that everything fades in as we would expect, and everything is working as we would expect as well. And we don't get any errors, so that's great. We've got all that sorted out. So now the next step is to integrate the QuestMap Pro save data into the save system that is included with SGK. Now this is the more tricky part. I'm also going to go over just quickly here. We need to actually edit an existing struct that is used quite a lot through SGK. So at this point, what I would strongly urge you do is save your entire project, close it, back it up, because editing structs can cause project corruption. And if it happens, you may not notice straight away. It may take sometimes months. I've had projects that have had struct corruption that didn't pop up for many months later, and there is nothing you can do about it. You have to go back to the point before the struct was edited. So I would strongly recommend backing up your project now, and there's a couple of things you can do to minimize the chance of it. The best thing you can do is close your project, save everything, back it up, then open it up, and do not open anything except for what opens in the beginning. We're going to be editing the struct in here under blueprints, other structs. We want to find the one called s_player save. So what I'm not going to do it here because if my project gets corrupted, it's not a big deal. This is just for a tutorial. So what you should do is close, back up, and then reopen. Don't open anything except for what opens on start. Then open the struct and do your changes. So in this case, we want to add 5 variables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to call them landmarks, notes, waypoints, POIs, and fog map file name. For landmarks, we want to make this this variable type landmark data. So it should be str_questmappro_landmark data, and we want to make this into an array. For notes, we want to look for note data and find str_questmappro note data and make that an array. For waypoints, we just want to use a vector and make that an array. For POIs, we want to use BP POI, so BP_questmappro POI. Make that an array, and then the last one we just want to be as a string and not an array. So now what you would do is save, close your project, and save everything, because it's all the files that reference that struct are going to need to be saved. So if I hit save all, it's going to save all of them. Once it is saved and your project is closed, open it up again and then continue. That process of closing your project, opening it up with minimal things open, editing the struct, saving, closing, and then reopening should minimize your chance for struct corruption here. It isn't super common anymore, but it does still happen even in 5.2. So once that is done, we want to get back to working in some blueprints. So we're going to go into the QuestMap Pro Manager blueprint. So QuestMap, Blueprints, Components, QuestMap Pro Manager. And in here, we want to find the begin play logic, which is in the event graph just here. So a couple of changes we want to do here. First of all, we want to... there's only one, sorry. We want to find the section that deals with loading, which is this section here. So look for the second pink comment bubble. And we're looking for this one here, load save data. And what we want to do is actually just bypass all of this logic here. Just like that, because we're no longer using the QuestMap Pro save system. Once that is done, we want to create a new function, and we want to call this something like load from SGK. In here, we're going to give this 5 input variables, and they are going to match the struct that we just made. So let's start with landmarks. Make that an str landmark data. So STR Quest Map Pro landmark data. This one is going to be notes, and we're going to search for note data. STR Quest Map Pro note data. This one is going to be waypoints. This is going to be vectors. POIs, which is going to be BP POI or BP underscore Quest Map Pro underscore POI. And then finally, fog map file name. And these first four should also all be arrays. Now that that is done, we want to... sorry, I've just got to get my logic here. Okay, we want to create a little bit of logic here. So we're going to drag off the execution pin. We're going to look for reinitialize QMP. We're going to start with that. And then what we're going to do is drag off here and go set landmark. Oh, that's not going to work, sorry. So from expand the references here. Sorry, not references, operating values. Look for landmark data. Hold Alt and drag that in and connect that up to there. Then we want to use notes. Where is my note data? Am I blind? Player notes. Hold Alt, drag that in and connect that up to there. For waypoints, we want to use waypoints from save data. Connect that up as well. POIs from save data. Connect that up as well. And then finally, we want to use external fog map. Oh, we didn't set that variable to string. And we want to just set that one as well. We're also going to create another function in here. Function or event? Sorry, an event. So go to the event graph. And just anywhere in here, I'm going to go right down the bottom. We're going to right click, go custom, and click add custom event. We're going to call this load with SGK. And we're just going to go back into load from SGK here and call that event. Load with SGK. So your final event should look something like this. Sorry, final function. Then what we want to do is in here with our logic here, we want to use this is initialized, and we want to use that to check a branch. So we're checking if the system is initialized. If it has not, we want to call a delay, and we're just going to leave that with a default 0.2. We're going to hook that back around to here. Just going to make this a little bit easier to read. And then in here, we want to go process loaded save data. So what we're doing here is start with this one. We are reinitializing Quest Map Pro. We're giving it all the new data from the save system, and then we're calling this function, which goes through, it checks if the system has initialized yet. If it hasn't, it waits and checks again, and it keeps checking until it's initialized, and then it will process the save data. Okay, let's see what else we need here. We need one other function as well. So we're going to create a new function. We're going to call this one export fog. So this is important if you want to use the map fog. In here, what we're going to do is give it an input and an output. They should both be of string. We're going to call the first one fog ID, and then the last one fog map file name. We're just going to break this for a second. And we're going to drag off here and go export render target. Give ourselves a little bit of room. And then we want to find the reference to the map manager, drag that in holding control. From there, get map fog, which is not in there for some reason. It might be a hidden variable. Why am I not seeing it? There we go, get map fog. So you'll need to just disable context sensitive because it's in a hidden category, and then find it here. Once that is done, re-enable context sensitive again. Hook that up to the texture render target. On file path, we want to search for get project directory. And then for file name, we're going to drag off here and go append. And we're going to add an extra one. So we've got 3 of them here. Fog ID is going to be hooked up to B. A is going to be /saved/ and then C is going to be something like fog map. So what this is going to do is going to export the fog map, so where the player has exposed, as a texture in the saved directory using fog ID _ fog map as the file name. We want to then hook this up to there and just give it that there so that we can reference it elsewhere. And I think we might be done in here now. Yep. So now we need to move to another blueprint. There's a lot of blueprints we need to edit here. So open up BP _ SGK save game. So that is in Survival Game Kit 2, blueprints, saving, and then we want to find BP _ SGK save game. Okay, in here we need to create a new function to begin with. So let's close all of these and we want to click add function. We're going to call this one get save data QMP. And we want to add some variables to this. So 2 input variables and 5 output variables. The first input is going to be called inventory, and that is going to be of type BP player inventory. I can spell that one there. The second one we want to call slot name, and that's just going to be a string. Now for our outputs, you may have seen this coming. We're going to call it landmarks. We're going to use str landmark data, and we're going to make that an array. We're going to call this one notes. We're going to use str questmap pro note data. We're going to make that an array. This one is going to be called waypoints. We're going to make that a vector and also an array. This one is going to be called POIs. That is going to be BP questmap pro POI. That is going to be an array. And then finally we want fog map file name, and that is going to be a string. Okay, in this function, this one's a little bit more work, so we're going to break this for now. And we're going to drag off of inventory and we're going to say get owner. Now the inventory is always added to a controller, so this allows us to get access to the controller, and then we can use get quest map manager to avoid casting. We're going to promote the quest map manager. I think this is as a local variable. Let me just check. Yep, it is. So we're going to promote that as a local variable. We're just going to call it QMP manager or something like that. And then we're going to use this and get player waypoints. And we're going to go through for each loop. And we're going to call, we need to create a new variable actually first. So under local variables, click add, call this waypoint data. We want that to be a vector, and if you right click, you can turn that into an array as well. I'm going to drag that in, hold control, and then drag off and click add. And in here, we want to drag off, click break, hide all unconnected pins, but just enable location, and click hook that up to the add node. Once that is done, we want to get another reference to our QMP manager, and we want to drag off here and get map manager. This one here. We're going to right click and click validated get, so that way if you are not using the map manager and you're only using the compass, this isn't going to return errors. And then we're going to drag off here and say get POIs. We're then going to drag and click promote to local variable. I'm going to call that POI data. Add that to the is valid. And then we're going to copy paste this reference and we're going to use export fog. And in here, we are going to drag off fog ID, and we're going to promote this to a variable and call this slot. So that is not a local variable. This is a public variable. Once that is done, we want to grab our return node here, plug this in, and we're also going to plug in the is not valid here and just make it so we can see where that's going. Now we're going to grab the manager once again and get landmark data from here. Add that to landmarks. We're going to get player notes from here. We can add that to notes. We're going to use our waypoint local variable here. We're going to use our POI data local variable here. And then we are going to drag off of here and hook that up as the fogmap file name. That is that function done. So hit compile. Make sure there's no errors. Let's have a look at what we need next. Okay, so then we want to open, still within SGK save game, we want to open up save player inventory. And we're going to go in here. Now, because we've edited our struct, there is now new data available in here, and we want to just enable those on this one. All 5 of them. On that one, and also this one. So we're able to save them. Now, I'm going to just move this over a little bit, so we've got some room. And in here, we are going to copy paste this player inventory variable. And we're going to go get save data QMP. We're going to hook that up in here. And also down here. And then we just want to drag these off and connect them up. So notes to notes, landmarks to landmarks, POIs to POIs. You get the idea on both of these. So I probably could have given myself a little less room there. And then we also need to create a new variable in here. Oh, no, we've already done that, haven't we? Yep, so we've got this variable slot. We want to hook that up to slot name on both of these. Okay, we're back. I actually had a crash there and some struct corruption. So I had to get back a little bit of progress. So struct corruption definitely still happens. One change is I told you guys to do this. This is actually wrong. We don't want to use... Sorry, I told you guys to use slot here. And instead, you actually just want to use slot name from the input. So if you just right click and say get slot name, that will give you the option to use that, and you want to hook that up there. But in the player inventory, you do want to use the slot variable, so you still do need to create it. So now that is done, we can hit compile and save and move on to the next step. Which is to open the player inventory. So we want to go into SGK components and go to BP underscore player inventory. And in here, we just want to find the function load player inventory. So search for load. And here we go, load player inventory. And right down here at the bottom, between set respawn point name and this branch, we want to do a couple little bits here. We want to right click and get a reference to self. And from that, we want to use get owner. And then we want to call get quest map manager. We want to hook that up to go in there. And off of the manager, we want to go load from SGK. And then down here, we want to use this variable here. And we're going to go break. We're going to hit hide unconnected pins and just show the last 5, which are the ones we added. We're going to hook those up to here. and then go to the branch, compile, and save. And we just have one more change to make. So we want to go into blueprints and then saving, and we want to go to BP_save system. And in here, we just want to find the event. I'm not sure where it is under saving. Yeah, event. So we're going to go event graph and then into the savings graph, and then this one here, call save events. Just here, we want to use, let me just open up this so I can get it. Yep. When you use this variable here and go set slot and just feed that the slot name. Hook that up like, not like that instead. Hit compile, save, and then we want to make sure we save all. Okay, so there was one thing I forgot to add in here, which is just in the process loaded save data function within the QuestMap Pro Manager. We need to just find this section here, import file as texture2D, and it will look like this. You want to just hook up this one here instead, and then hit compile and save. Now there is also a bug that this has revealed to me in QuestMap Pro where waypoints are not cleared on reset state, so that will be fixed in the next update. And steps for that fix will be available in the Discord as usual. So I'm going to add a note here, and I'm going to add a waypoint over here. We may also get errors just because of the way the nav mesh is in here. It's not really set up for the nav trail. As you can see, there's some weird stuff happening there. That's not to do with what we've done. That's just because this demo level is very basic. So now we can see that. We're going to save that process. I'm just going to delete these ones that I did as a test before. And let's call this test 1. And let's remove that. And let's put that there, a waypoint there, and a waypoint there. And let's give ourselves a little more fog. Like that. Let's save game test 2. Now I'm just going to remove the waypoints because, as I said, they will not get removed with the save, but that will be fixed in the next update. So let's load test 1. You can see once everything loads, we have our waypoint and we also have our note there. We remove those, and we also have our fog has been returned to this. And then we go test 2. Let everything load. We have our multiple waypoints, a note, and the fog there. So that is how you get everything up and running with Survival Game Kit. As I said, it is quite a process. And as I've said in the written version of this tutorial, this asset is very dense. So it's very possible there are other things that have not been considered, but this should give you a starting point to work from with its save system. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day.